also in the Rinzai school, it became kind of a regular thing for a teacher to do three things, to teach the dharmas and to teach, and to be proficient at a martial art and an art, both, and another art. So martial art and painting, martial art and calligraphy, martial art and poetry, martial art. One of the reasons that that's so important is that if you don't struggle with something, it's hard to improve. I know, for example, that many people think competition is a bad thing, and you can compete with yourself, but I find competition wonderful. Like, you know, I competed in various things, but when I compete in the things I compete in now, chess, tennis sometimes, then you can't lie to yourself about how good you are. You really find out, and it's emotional. You really fail, and you really see yourself failing, and there's something, a lot of people don't have the stomach for that, and then probably they really don't have the stomach to be objective about themselves. I was thinking of something, looking at Jeff. Jeff, have you ever heard of a band? You might have, because I think you like this kind of music. They were pretty popular for a little while, called Pure Prairie League. Okay. So I was playing for a while, and at that time I was playing guitar, and they came to town, and they heard I was a pretty good player, and I could double on other instruments too. So they invited me in to try out for their band. I didn't know if I wanted to play with their band anyway, but I liked their music, and they were very good, and I went in and I tried out for them, and they didn't like my playing. You know, they weren't so cruel as to say that I played awfully, but they said that the way I played was not what they were looking for. And it wasn't, really wasn't. But after that, my playing improved 3 times as much as if I didn't take that particular failure. Because even if I didn't want to play with them, I felt terrible being rejected in that way. And we wind up doing that. We risk rejection in all forms, not just in arts, not just in martial arts, in relationship, in work, in everything we do. And when we are not willing to risk, we can't move forward. So the ways are all about that. Now I'm hoping, part of your program kind of, that you take something in your life and kind of make it a way. Just designate one thing as something that you do in order to learn from it and in order to grow. And it can be, you don't have to pick up something new, it can be banjo, if you already play that. It can be relationship. It can be your job. It can be painting, it can be flute, it can be anything you want it to be. But please start to consider doing that. Some of you already do things like those of you who are fighters and musicians and do things like that. I would definitely take those things. They're perfect for it. And if you're an architect or an artist or whatever, if not, pick something. Or it can be something that you're going to do and struggle with. Now, one of the things that's going to teach you that's so important to me is this fallacy that I talk about so often, which is that we tend to somehow want to believe that we're not able to do things because of talent, lack of luck. We started too late. We don't have the right whatever, the right situation. It's just not true. Most of the time, when you don't succeed at something, it's because of effort. You did not make sufficient effort. And I actually would ask you to look at that and see if you can find something in your life where you just absolutely tried the hardest you could for years and didn't succeed. And I bet you not one of you will come up with something like that. It's just not right. If you can learn that little thing, that what happens that makes people succeed in practice is effort. And other things. Effort with, you're in a teaching situation, which I'll get to, where you also get feedback. Jeremy Silman, who's a great player, when he looks at my games and he looks at me play, he gives me very similar feedback a lot of times. Sometimes it changes. If it changes, I know I've accomplished the last thing he was bothering me about. But it's always, whenever he gives me feedback on something, it's always exactly something I'm doing in my life too. So please try to use that if you're a runner, if you do sports, it's excellent, or anything like that. And we'll talk about that after I finish this. I want to connect that with you, that idea of the ways, with two other ideas. We're going to look at personal type. Personal type should tell you what's always in front of you that stops you from accomplishing the next thing. Personal type is a way of zeroing in on the wall that stands right in front of you from what, and it can be something as abstract as happiness. The type in the study we're going to do is what's right in front of you, between you and that goal. Some of you have voiced some very concrete things. You want financial independence. That can be a way, but you need to narrow it down a little. You can be working on something like martial arts and that, or writing and that, or that, art and that at the same time. But you need to use it as a way. You need to say, okay, this didn't work because I did this. Not because I don't have the talent, not because of anything like that, but simply because of what the lack was, what you haven't learned yet. There's no reason to feel bad about this. What types are is that we all are benighted in some way. We all have deficits. Type will help you define what yours are most likely to be about. Then one more thing. In the fourth way, they talk about the octave. The octave is a way of completing, just talking about completing tasks, and they're referring to the musical octave. And what that means, when you go in music from, you go up the scale, and C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, again, it's higher than the C before, is the same note at double the frequency. And so, in the fourth way, we talk about completing an octave. That means that you did what you tried to do, exactly what you tried to do, but now you're on a different level. Two things spoil and stop you from completing octaves. The first is usually negative emotion. And just like in music, they say the gap there is between the third and fourth step, and then between the seventh and eighth, which are different in the major scale. I use the smaller frequency. So some kind of negative emotion will stop you from completing the octave according to type. It's going to be a negative emotion of some kind, a lack of self-confidence, fear, lack of persistence, boredom in that case, whatever. And then the second one is going to be lack of objectivity, and that is going to be according to type. So let's say a 7 who tends to be all over the place with things. Between 7 and 8, what's going to stop them from completing the octave is they're suddenly going to gain a brand new, really enthusiastic interest in something else. A 1 may decide right between 7 and 8 that whatever they're doing is not ethical. A 8 may feel between 7 and 8 something like a loss of control. They feel more controlled by failing. So we're going to look at all that.